How's it going, ScrubGamers? Welcome back to another video here at ScrubGames, and today we have a new deck profile. So as I'm sure you've seen, if you've been watching my channel and keeping up with it, we had a gameplay video recently of Red Jiren versus King Cold. Now this isn't the same list as what was used in that video, but my own takes, that one was friend Andres, as he's using for a pre-release we had. And Red Jiren is one that I was interested when it first got revealed. It looked really interesting, how you got all the one drops and you had a few, like, go through the whole evolve chain stuff. And Jiren in the card game has been trying with the universal level stuff, has been quite cool. Like, one of the best ones has been the set 9 Jiren, which was a fantastic leader, and even still is today. And Red Jiren, when it first came out, was shown, it's really interesting in it, but then, as like with most sets where the power has been quite lackluster and things started to be a little less interesting, I kind of lost interest in trying to build it and just stuck with sticking with things like King Cold and Hatjack and things like that. But recently, after giving it an actual try and testing it out, I fell back in love with it and I've been enjoying it ever since. And so as a result, I thought I'd give my view of the deck and my list on the channel to see, just to give people have a look at my list of what I've got, so to compare if they want to look at, or if you want to try it out or haven't seen Red Jiren, they can have a look at it this way. So first of all, before we go into the video and go into the list, do you want to shout out to DBS Deck Planet for being the best Dragon Ball Super card game deck builder at the moment in the game. Very easy to use, very nice, always kept updated, maintained by the fantastic team behind it, and I even have like a very nice and active Discord as well to ask questions and just socialize. So going into the list, we got the leader, which is a nice one because it's got some self-weakening on the front, so you're not going to be stuck for trying to flip over. So it's got an auto, which is a Spirit Boost 1, which means trigger you have to remove a marker from unison. When your opponent attacks, you can choose one of your mono red Jiren cards in your hand and evolve it on top of a relevant target, and which the entry has been evolved. So this is a really nice one. So if you've got one drop on the board and you put attacks, you could trigger the auto, knock a marker off your unison, and then evolve into one of your Jirens, which is quite cool, getting their effects from when they're played. And this is not once per turn as well, just a note. You can do it as multiple times a turn, like an earth attack, as long as you meet the conditions for it. And the way that it does self-awaken is with activate main once per turn. You can take a life, or you can take up to one card. I think it's just you got to add one card from your life to your hand. You get to the top 7 cards in your hand and play from there one red universe 11 card with entry cost of 1 energy from among them in rest mode, and then shuffle your hand. You get the effects on them and stuff as well. So if they got like counter effects, you just play draw 1, you get those. And it's got the very mid-range awakening where when your life's at 4 or less, you untap 1, draw 1, and flip it over. Now when you do flip it over, you got 3 lots of autos. So the first one is when it attacks, draw 1, standard on most leaders. Then you've got the same kind of auto one as well as the third one, but then the second one can give the leader a boost, whereas auto limit 2, so it means you can trigger the effect twice a turn, and it's during your turn when you would evolve a card, when you would evolve a Universe 11 card, it gains 5k for the turn. So that means, since it's a limit 2, it means if you evolve twice in your turn, your leader becomes a 25k base, which is pretty cool. Especially when you're swinging and chucking down a champ on it, it's going to be huge for a double strike finisher swing. And that's basically just the leader. So it's got decent natural self-awakening, which is nice, and some strong effects to evolve on your opponent's turn with the chain. So like most lists, I like to go into the unison first. So with the unison of choice being the Topo Force of Oblivion. Sorry, not Oblivion, Force of Obliteration. So it's one of those standard ones from the Cross Spirits set, where they have an auto which triggers from Spirit Boosting. Well, no, not from Spirit. Well, this one is one of the few that doesn't have an effect from Spirit Boosting, but does have a nice auto. Then it's got 2 marker skills, this one being a +1 and a -7. So the auto is once per turn, where when one of your red battle cards evolves into this card, it gains. Well, when one of your battle cards red battle cards evolves, this card gains 5,000 power for the turn, and you add a marker to it. So this is how you can maintain quite a lot of markers on your unison to allow you to use the auto spirit boost skill on your leader. So instantly turn 1, like that's when you want to play it mostly. So turn 1, play this card, have it 1 marker, do a +1, trigger the +1, and then anytime you would evolve, either on your turn or your opponent's turn, you gain a marker from that as well. And the good thing about this is when you use the effect, the spirit boost, take a marker off. If you're evolving with that, by doing that, you then gain a marker back and giving this 5k for the turn thanks to the auto. So you're not really losing a marker on that first one during your opponent's turn. The move is +1 is an activate main, where at the end of a turn, you use the 1 red battle card with energy cost of 1 in your hand and play in rest mode. So that's quite nice. Just be able to get those little 1-drop Jirens on the board for your evolve change in your opponent's turn. And the -7, which doesn't come up that often but might be useful, is its activate main, where if your opponent has 3 or more life, deal 1 damage to your opponent. Now it's one of those effects where it's got a restriction when you can do it, just like with the what's it called, the Piccolo Eradicator piece, which your opponent needs to be on 3 life or more to be able to trigger its effect to burn 1 life as well when you use Alliance. The same thing here, which is not too bad. It just means that being at 3 life means if your opponent's at 3 life, you can use this, burn them down to 2, and then any swing you have that connects, that you put everything into, can become lethal if it's met with a Champa chucked on as well. So that reason to make sure we can get, like, this is the turn 1 play, so we can play it at 4, so we can get the unison on board, so we can get those evolve chains in your opponent's turn in a lot easier. Now the 1 top targets we got for this are at least 2 Jiren. So we got first one is Jiren First with Power. So this is the 1-drop Jiren to help with that, and it's got a nice auto as well. Like, we're going to ignore the permanent because it's never going to be used. It's a terrible. Like, if they made the cost on it cheap, like easier to use that, it'd be used more. But at the moment, it's not great. You're never going to use it. But his auto is when this card is played, you look up to the top 5 cards of your deck. And then you get to add up to either any 1 red Jiren card among them or 1 red unison card with a specified cost of 1 among them to your hand, and then shuffle your deck. So this is a nice way to allow us, by getting this off your leader using his activate main, you can search for the unison, try and look at the top 5 to see if you get the unison if you don't have it, or get an evolved target from this top 5, which is quite cool. You know, of course we play 4 of them because we want to make sure we got enough 1-drop Jirens to start the chain off. And then we also have 4 of the Red Jiren, the Jiren the Avenger. Now this is just a cantrip one because there's also, it's just when it's played, draw 1, which is nice. So both of them when played, most likely, like, is very going to whiff on the Jiren First with Power. So these are both nice cards to get that extra advantage by playing it for free from the top of your deck. If you use the effect of your leader, particularly in life, you add a card that way. You get to play one of those for free in that way, and now you've either drawn a card or adding a card with it, so you just +3 straight away. And this Jiren also has a nice way to ensure that you've got the chain targets, where when it's in your drop, so even if it dies, it's fine. It's got an activate main where limit 1 means you can only use it once per turn across all copies of the card. If you can choose 1 card in your hand and discard it, and place this card at the bottom of its deck from your drop area. You add up to 1 red Jiren card with energy cost of 5 or less with an evolve skill from your deck to your hand and shuffle your deck. So it's really nice, and allowing you to put more of these 1-drops back in your deck using this skill, which is quite nice. And the good thing is where it shuffles after put it to the bottom means it's not going to stay at the bottom, so it's going to be there again for you to potentially play it out from your Jiren's effect. And it gets you to add almost any evolved target. I think it's just the SR it doesn't find, but all the rest of the targets it does find. And of course we play 4 of each one because these are the 1-drop Jirens that can help you evolve your chain on. Then for the last 1-drop we have is Zorre Topsy Turvy. This is a nice one just because of the fact that it's a 1-drop blocker, and it's got a nice permanent with Bond 2 for Universe 11. This card can't be KO'd once per turn, and this is nice for if you we only play 2 of these, so you can get 2 of these on board. You got very nice defense, and the fact that you can just block with one, block with the other, and they're not going to die once per turn. So if they can't be, unless they're attacked over again or power reduced, then it's not going to be removed. And the good thing is their opponent that says they can't be echoed once per turn isn't clarified regarding battle or anything. So if your opponent tries to pop them with an effective, the KO them before you block with them, they can't be KO'd that way. Just once per turn they can't be KO'd, which is quite handy. Now I might there is the reason. There's like a valid reason to potentially change these out for ever one drop Universe 11s, ones that can draw as well as there's the Kunshi one that draws and gives you a one drop barrier, but then the rest of the time you're not going to worry if they've got barrier, because you could be evolving as soon as your opponent attacks on top of them anyway. But there is the other one which draws a card that minuses something by 4k, which could be relevant because as you can see, some of these one drops aren't 5ks like they used to be. They're like 4ks and stuff, so just make it so you can potentially kill your opponent with them. That could be a good reason, like as you saw in the game previously with Jiren versus King Cold. The Jiren player did able to play the Kunshi, which then reduced the variable down to 4k to get rid of it, which could be relevant. But that's like I might have to test a bit more to try, but at the moment I'm enjoying having Zoro Topsy-Turvy at 2 in the deck. Now that's enough for the one drops. We now have the Jiren Chain, which we have 4 of the Jiren Devastating Might, so this is the 4 drop Jiren evolved target. Now what you'll notice as well is that most of them have a limit on their evolve skill. They either have a limit on their evolve skill or a limit on auto. If they don't have a limit on one, they have a limit on the other one. And with this Jiren, it doesn't have a limit on his evolve skill. It's just if your lead card is a red Universe 11 card, which it is, you evolve into a red Jiren with an energy cost of 1. And it's auto, which is the limit 1, meaning you can only activate the auto once across all copies of the card per turn. Is when it's played, you draw one card, which as you see, most of them, most of the Jirens, when they evolve, they replace themselves by drawing a card. Well, I think just 2 of them do. And then you choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, and it gets minus 10k power for the turn. So it's really nice, especially during your opponent's turn when they attack, to just play this to then draw a card that replaces itself and minus 10k something on one of your opponent's battle cards. It's pretty cool. It helps to get rid of your little weenies that your opponent might have that have some annoying effects, or even just help you save from battles or just remove things. And being 15k is quite decent as well, and yeah, we always play most of the Jiren evolve targets at 4, and then the other one we play at 4 is Jiren Surge of Strength. So this one is a 5k instead with 19k. It's got dual attack as well, which is come in some handy because you can spam a lot of these on board. And this is one of the ones that has a limit 1 on his EX evolve. So this one has EX evolve limit 1 for 1 red energy. So this one you have to pay on like the Jiren Devastating Might, which is free. If your leader card is a red Jiren Universe 11 card, you evolve on top of a red Jiren card and she goes to 1 or 4. So you can evolve it on either of these targets or one of these targets, and that's relevant because of the fact that it's permanent. Where if this card will be removed from your opponent from your battle area by opponent's skill, you may place either two cards from under this card in his drop, or you add 1 card from your life to your hand. So it means it's got some protection from being removed by effects, but it doesn't have by battle. So if your opponent you gotta be careful with this, because if your opponent runs over by battle and you can't outcombo it, it's gonna die. But if they remove it by a skill, you got a permanent save, which is quite nice, which helps you awaken a bit quicker as well, if need to be. Then his auto is when it's played, you draw 1 card, then choose up to one of your red Universe 11 cards, leader cards or battle cards, other than this card, and it gains 1000 power for the turn. So it's quite handy to make your leader 16k, which can be quite annoying for your opponent for the turn if used defensively, or even just if you're doing offensively, just giving yourself an extra 10k on a card might come in quite handy. But this is a really nice one for helping someone on the board if need be. And then the last, the other Jiren we got that could be evolved on the 1-drops is 2 copies of Jiren Unseen Potential. So this is the TP. So Red Jiren got 2 TPs in the same set that it came out of, and we're using both in this. So Jiren Unseen Potential is a 5-cost 15k, and it's never evolve target. We only run 2 of this because it's not as great as the other ones. So EX Evolve is the same as the other ones. If your leader is a certain type, which it is, you can evolve it on top. But this one only evolves on top of, just like the 4-drop, on top of 1-drop. So there's only this Jiren Surge of Strength that can evolve on a 4-drop, which the other ones can only evolve on top of 1-drop. And like I said, if it hasn't got a limit 1 on its evolve, it's got it on its auto, which is what it does, which is the auto limit 1. When this card is played, look up to 7 cards from the top of your deck. Add up to 1 red Universe 11 card among them to your hand, then shuffle your deck. And if you did add a card to your hand, choose 1 card from your hand and place it at the bottom of his deck. So this is quite handy. This one is one of the few that the only one out of the three that doesn't plus. Instead, you get to like fix your hand. So you can grab any Universal 11 card to be even the Topo negate if you play not Topo negate, which is quite interesting. And it's just a nice one because it's a free 15k evolve target. So it's just never evolve target for if you already used one of these two and don't have one of the other one. You've got this one as never target to help try and fix your hand as well. And sometimes it can be handy to put cards back in your deck that you don't want, switch like trading it out for a Universal 11 card you wanted. And in the big boss of the deck, we have Jiren Zenith of Power. So it's the last EX Evolve for the chain and the big boss of the deck. It's an 8 cost 35k with double strike, and this is one of the few that has a 10k 1 cost 10k combo. And yeah, so it's EX Evolve is limit 1 for 2 energy. If you have 3 or more energy, you can evolve this on top of a Red Jiren with energy cost of 4 or 5. So this one can evolve into 1 drops, has to evolve on top one of these 3. And it's got an auto of when this card is played. You choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and it gets minus 35k for the turn. And then you can't play non-Universe 11 battle cards for the turn. So if you play this, if you do evolve into this 8 drop, you can only play Universe 11 cards for the rest of the turn. So if you want to do anything that's not Universe 11, you want to do it before you evolve into this 8 drop Jiren. Then it's got an activate main of once per turn. You place 1 card from this card in its owner's drop area. And you switch this card to active mode and have one of your red leader cards get 5,000 power for the turn. So that's quite interesting. So as we mentioned, the leader has an effect where every time you has limit 2, every time you evolve it gains 5k. So if you evolve twice, so if you have the 1 drop out, evolve into one of these 4 or 5 drops, and then evolve into 8 drop, that's 2 evolves to get your leader up to 25k. And if you swing with these 8 drop and then use that to main and restand it, you also give your leader another 5k, put it to 30k quite easily, which is quite cool. So a lot of aggression here. A lot of you can OTK most games like turn 3. You can go in with so many attacks. It's quite crazy, and it's got a lot of firepower behind it. Now with the rest of the cards, we have some other 1 drops. We have 2 Broly Crown of Retribution is to help deal with little counter plays and floodgates. Your opponent leaves a lot of energy against defensive decks. You have this. Most people know what this does, where if your leader card is red, when you play this card from your hand, if your opponent has 2 or more energy untapped, you can look at your opponent's hand and then discard a card from their hand, a battle card from their hand that is 2,000 power or less. So it's quite nice. Just if your opponent leaves too much energy open, you can play this, have a look at their hand, rip something out their hand, and it's just nice to have that hand knowledge and potentially rip something you don't want them to have out their hand, like it be a super combo, counter player, or even a negate. And then the other one we got is to give us a bit more self-awakening, awakening quicker than turn 4 if our opponent is attacking, just against games where your opponent isn't actually doing anything to you. We have 2 Saiyan Cabba. This just helps deal with unisons a bit better, because the fact that when it attacks, you can choose 1 card in your life out of your hand, and if you do, it becomes a 15k double striker until the end of the turn. So this is nice to help deal with unisons, because unlike critical only does 1 damage to 1 marker to a unison, but then if it goes to a leader, it denies them getting that resource. With double strike, that do 2 damage to a leader, but to a unison do 2 markers. So this is why this is just nice to have to help deal with unisons a bit easier, because this deck doesn't have the best utility with dealing with unisons, especially with the blue Majin Buu one. That's one of the most annoying ones in the game at the moment. And we best play 2 of this, just to have this if we need be. It can either be charged if we don't need it, or it could be actually used to help self-awaken quicker and deal with unisons. Then next we have, is not a red one, but it's a black one, and it's Quartz Climb Mechanical Courage. So this is just a handy one where it's very easy to get this in the drop, because of the fact of you've got the Journey Avenger and stuff like that, or even just comboing off. And this is just a handy one, as it's got a nice handy effect to deal with floodgates, like negates like Topo and stuff, where if this is in your drop, by paying 1 energy and remove this card from your drop area from the game, you can choose up to 2 cards from your hand and place them at the bottom of his deck. And then if you did put any cards back, you draw that many cards back. And then for the rest of the turn, if your opponent plays a battle card with 2,000 power or less, they got to want 2 cards from their hand. So it just really helps if your opponent's holding up a floodgate and they haven't got enough energy for probably rip out their hand. You can just use this, help fix your hand a bit as well, and just make it so if your opponent wants to play anything 20k or less for the turn, they're going to be punished for it. So you can do a lot of damage. Anything like a floodgate like Topo is going to hurt them for trying to protect themselves, basically. Then we have 1 copy of Vegeta Raw Evolution. This is a really handy card because as we just mentioned not too long ago, Warrior Leader can boost itself up by just evolving on the turn and using Jiren Zenith of Power. This card can help do a lot, get you extra leader swing, extra attacks in, and a lot of damage using your leader when you boost up a lot. So his first effect is an auto by paying 1 red. If your opponent has 3 or more energy and it's your turn, at the end of a battle in which this card was using the combo from your hand, you can switch it to one of your mono red leader cards to active mode, and it gains a negative 5,000 power and has its keyword skills negated for the turn. And you can activate non-keyword leader card skills on or skills on copies of this card for the turn. So that means after evolving twice, making you 25k and using Jiren Zenith of Power, put your leader up to 30k, you can swing with it, get that draw, combo this as a 5k, and go to 35, and then pay out 1 red to then restand your leader to have another attack, but not have the autos live, which is pretty cool because you get 2 big ass swings from a beefy leader. And any other effect which could be relevant is an activate battle, where for 1 red, if your leader card is a mono red card, you discard this card from your hand, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, and it gets minus 10k power for the battle. So that's really handy in combination with this Jiren Devastating Might to free evolve this to minus the draw card and minus 7 by 10k, and then use this to activate battle to minus 7 by 10k if need be. But most of the time you're going to be using it for the first auto. Then we have another one of being Further in Destruction Champa. This is just a staple in most decks, where when it's comboed, you choose one of the cards attacking, and it gains double strike for the turn or for the duration of the battle. So this is a way to get it in games, especially with a beefy leader. Be on the deal with that. It's quite handy. So we're only one copy because multiple could be dead, and we could side more copies if needed. Then we have the one of a card that is limited, as you saw from that little bit of limited to 1 underneath it. It's King Piccolo New Ruler. It's very easy in this deck to get yourself a marker with unison with 3 markers. What you have to do is pay 1, play 1, use its +1 effect, and then simply just free evolve into, like, say, one of the Jirens to get another marker from his auto, and there you have it, 3 markers. Instantly just free play to King Piccolo to get some more aggression and more attacks. And this King Piccolo's New Ruler is a free cost 15k with double strike, a permanent where if your leader card is red, this card gains 5,000 power, and your opponent can activate blocker in response to this card's attack. And then the free player, use the activate main, where if you have a red unison in play with 3 or more markers on it, play this card from your hand, and you can't play copies of this card for the turn, which makes sense, which doesn't matter really because you can only have 1 copy in the deck anymore because of the limit. And then his autos at the end of the turn, you send this card to your unit's warp, so you don't get to keep it afterwards. Just a 1-shot double strike swing if need be. And then next we have to go with the unison package. We have 3 Yamcha Merciless Bra just to give us a bit more defense, even more aggression as well, because you can just to fit as a 15k body. And this is one of the few, one of the only free counterplays we got. That's a lot better in the second counter step than the first step, mainly because the fact that it's counterplay if it is all the skills in the counterplay, which in counter window 1 you might not have targets, but in counter window 2 when the cards that's been played is actually on the board, it can then target it for its effect. And just nice to be in a help control board by minusing 15k 2 things and give yourself a 15k attacker to attack with if you want to. Then we have the super combo choice being Raditz Saiyan Youth. It's just one of those. It's just the super combos from set 11, which is the best super combos in the game, and are generally the best super combos for any color, unless apart from like Paragus from green could be a bit more useful, and Zeno in blue. as farm as somewhere from it, and then of course the dual color ones. It's basically a super combo where if your leader card is red and your life is at 4 or less and all your energy is red, which it will be, you're going to be charging red in this. When this card is using the combo, it gains 10k combo power for the battle, and then you can place one card from your hand and put it on the bottom of your deck, and if you do, you draw 2 cards. So it's handy to just put cards you don't want back in the bottom of your deck, and just draw 2 more cards and gain a 10k combo. Very strong. And then another card that we have that isn't red in the deck is Jiren Pride of Universe 11. So this is one of the promos back during set 9, which was used for the yellow Jiren stuff, but actually comes in a lot of use in this leader, where there's an effect where you activate main if your leader card is a Universe 11 card, which our Jiren is, and you discard this card from your hand to your drop area. You'd use it to you'd use up to 2 Universe 11 cards, and you cost a 1 from your drop area and play them with the skills negated for the turn in your battle area. So what this means is by discarding this card from your hand, you can grab any 2 1-drop Jirens from your drop, or even a mix of one of these 1-drop Jirens and Zore from your drop area and play them to your board. So basically, just if you haven't got one of these on your board to start a Jiren Evolve Chain, you can easily do it with this for free. Another benefit of this is that it's a 5k combo, which can easily turn itself into a 10k combo use effect, because you discard this 5k combo from your hand to the drop area, play 2 1-drops with both have 5k combo power, and then you just turn 5k into 10k if you want to be even more aggressive during your turn or even defensively. So it's good utility when you run 2, because just in case we want to reduce the number of situations where if you don't want to charge certain things, you don't have cards that you have to charge that aren't red, because otherwise it shuts off your secret rare. No, not your secret rare, sorry. Your super combo. So you can secret rare. Our choice for the deck is Pan the Time Control Maiden, because as we all know from Baby Hatchak, that card is a fantastically strong secret rare, being the whole fact that it can just negate the opponent's first attack and then shut off the entire turn, so they basically just end, like reminiscent of the Super Shenron Get days. And Pan is like a pseudo version where it's got a counter attack where if you have 3 or more energy, play this card from your hand, your opponent can't attack with battle cards for the rest of the turn, and you can activate the counter skill on copies of this card for the game. So that's like a mini hat check where you just do it on the first attack and shut off all your opponent's battle card swings for the turn. It doesn't negate that attack it used on, but it still gives you a 40k beat stick, which is nice. And it's very easy in this deck to make it a 0 cost because of its permanent, where for each battle card in play, being either yours or your opponent's, you reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 2. And it's very easy to fill up the board because you'll be putting 1-drops on the board to help do your Jiren Chain, and even have like Brody Crown Retribution, Saiyan Cabba. And if your opponent plays anything on board, or even with Yamcha as well, it's easy to get enough cards on board to make this free to play. And not only that, it also has an activate main where for 1 energy you move this card from the game, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards, and gain control of it, which is really handy because you can attack with it first, and then you can use the activate main to just move from the game to take something at your opponents. Be it if they've got something useful, something big, you can just snipe it. Unless it has barrier, it doesn't go for barrier though. And the good thing about this secret rare as well is it can be used aggressively. You don't have to use the counter attack because the permanent doesn't just do it for a certain turn. Just all you need is 4 battle cards on the board between you and your opponent, and it's free to play. So if you're going aggro in and you want to get another swing in, you can just free play this and attack with it for free 40k, which is quite handy. It's probably one of the best secret rares from the latest set, and that's just given. Probably one of the best secret rares in the game, like at least top 5. And then for the other cards we have is, I think the last power card we have is SS4 Barlock Fight Against Fate. So we've got 2 copies of this. Since it's like a very aggressive deck, we want to get more swings in, and this is the perfect overwhelm to be in the decks. Just for free, having a dual attack at 25k is just perfect for any aggro deck. So that's why we're running 2 of this. The last card in the deck we have is 2 Testing the Opposition. So this is a choice because as I mentioned, we have Saiyan Cabba in there because it's a really handy card to help yourself awaken quicker if you need be. Like if you want to awaken a lot quicker, you have that option. And it's just a nice card where it does a lot more than the old. Like we had the whole sparking negates during set 5, and now they've been kind of power crept apart from D Magic, because D Magic is just so good, into these new negates which don't require a certain amount in drops. They can be used with overarm, and you just need to have a certain life total, and they do a lot more than the old sparking negates because they negate 2 attacks. They do that by first one, they negate the attack by using the card itself, but you negate the attack, and they also then produce a token which has blocker as well, and they're not limited to how many you can use. So the counter attack is if your leader card is mono red, which ours is, negate the attack, then play 1 Cyberman token on which has 5k power and 5k combo power to your board, and then the token gains blocker for the turn. So it only gains blocker for that turn, so if it survives, you can then still use it, in this case, as a 5k combo piece, because not all of these negates in all colours have combo power, but luckily for this one it does. And yeah, just being able to negate attack with this, and then have a token and then block another attack is very, very strong. And you can use it for free as well. You're not going to be paying that 2 energy. You don't pay energy in most decks nowadays, because of its permanent, where if your life's at 5 or less, you can activate this card's counter skill from your hand for free by adding 1 card from your life to your hand instead of paying its energy cost. And that's actually perfect, because you can get them down to 5 very easy with the leader's effect, self-awakening for its effect, and by your opponent attacking you. Like, it's very easy to get this to help, and it's just nice extra defense along with the like evolved chains and stuff to defend, and then aggress your opponent, like aggro your opponent down after that. But as the main board, that is my main board for the Red Jiren at the moment. It's testing quite well, and I'm going to be trying to use it as my next locals if be. And I also do have a side deck if you're interested in playing this in best of 3, since hopefully best of 3 is going to come up a bit more in future. And for that, we just have 1 extra Vegeta Royal Evolution if that is handy in certain matchups. Never Champion if need be. We also have 2 of hidden King Vegeta Hidden Ambitions. This is a very handy card for against those free play 1 cost negates like Dormant, as well as that, like Wolfang Fist, those ones which is also the same thing as Dormant, like D Magic and stuff like that. This is a handy card to help counter those if you're against certain decks that have Power Burst, because it's a counter where if your leader card is red, if your leader card know your energy on mono red and your opponent has 3 or more energy, you can negate the counter skill of an extra card with an original energy cost of 1 that is activated without paying its energy cost, then play this card. So you, for 1 energy, counter their free play 1 drop negate, give yourself a 5k, and then continue on whatever your effect is going. Now we don't worry about the ever activate main because we don't have the condition strategy for that. And then as well as that, we also have the 4th copy of Yamcha if needed be. We have 2 copies of Top Oath just in case we get never our good matchup and we need it. And this is a nice card because you can easily try and search it off of the Top Oath Unseen Potential TP, because that one searches, as you remember, for a Universe 11 card. Then for certain matchups, we have Bardock Fully Unleashed. This is just a very good card for certain metas. When where at the moment we have some decks which spam very high costing cards, like in Jiren you've got high cost the 8 drop and things like that. You also got Gogeta Sinnoh with the 6 drop Union Fusions. You got Sin General with the 9 drop and with their high level, high costing Shadow Dragons and everything like that. And this is just a handy card in certain metas to deal with things like that. Like I know this was very popular in Dark Broly when they get 1 of each of their Dark Broly's out, and this would be able to just wipe them off the board in just 1 overrun, which is quite cool. Another overrun choice we have Secret Identity. It's one of the best overruns in the game at the moment, along with Fighting Against Fate. We have decided for against certain matchup to clear boards. Then we have some extra cards. We have the ever 2 copies of Testing the Opposition if need be. 2 Violent Raids for against certain matchups that have like spam battle cards that are 20k and more to help stop that. And then Wolfang Fist for a handy card against like little weenie aggro decks that can be free played with your Unison on board, which is quite cool. So that's the main deck. That's the whole deck. Feel free to give it a try. Most of the time with this deck, you're going to be wanting to turn one, try mulligan, grab your unison as the main thing. Play unison down turn 1. Use the leader, try and set up a 1-drop. Then at the end of the turn, from the +1 unison, you put another 1-drop out. Get your evolve chain going. Try and aggro down. Get yourself a self-awakening as soon as possible. And then just aggro down with everything like your New Ruler, Zenith, even the Vegeta as well, to get more aggro with the leader being huge, and then fight against fates and everything. Just aggro, put a lot of pressure in, and just awaken as soon as possible. But always trying to mulligan for the unison if you can, because that's the vital part. Being able to evolve during your opponent's turn defensively. Well, but that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Feel free to like the video if you enjoyed it. Comment down below if you have any questions. And feel free to subscribe as well. It helps my channel out, getting subscribers up, and keeps you updated with my channel. But also by clicking the notification bell, it keeps you updated with my videos as and when they drop, and helps me fulfill my goal of trying to get to 1,000 subs, which we are a quarter of the way there. So once again, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.